Xenophon is at great pains to explain that Socrates himself did indeed possess these great qualities of character, that he was a good guy all round. And presumably the idea is, given that he was such a good guy, it would be inconceivable that he wouldn't have transmitted this to other people. Or if other people around him had gone bad, it can't possibly be his fault. Because he was such a good guy, it must be some fault of theirs rather than his. So we'll come back to this idea about how people with a certain character, how associating with them can mould your character as well. That's something that these writers are very interested in. Indeed, it's something that lots of writers are interested in, generally, and indeed in the classical period in particular. The way in which, as it were, spending time with a positive role model encourages your moral development positively. Or spending time with someone who is a bad egg or a difficult character can encourage you to degrade morally too. So Xenophon's idea is just to, as it were, extol the great virtues of Socrates himself as a way of exculpating Socrates from being the kind of malign influence that he may have been taken to be. So rather than this being a kind of intellectual defence, a defence in terms of the ideas Socrates offered, it's a defence in terms of the kind of person he was. The other move he makes is a direct response to this kind of the problem of Critias and Alcibiades. So it really is something these writers have got to wrestle with. What are they going to say about these people like Critias, who ended up, first of all, associating quite closely with Socrates, but then was part of this anti-democratic movement at the end of the 5th century? They've got to say something about what Socrates' role was in the trajectory of Critias' career. And one move that Xenophon makes is to say something about, well, it can't have been Socrates' fault, because these people only really went bad after Socrates stopped associating with them, either after his death or after these people moved away. So the idea instead is you turn his association with Critias and these people into a positive rather than a negative. Because instead of him any longer being responsible for the bad things that they did, instead you claim that he was responsible for them not going bad earlier than they did. The idea now is he was a restraining influence on these people, partly because he was such a good person himself. And the fact that they did go bad eventually isn't his fault. In fact, we should rather thank him for holding back the damage, preventing them from going